gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Scott Garrett Show. On the show today, we're tackling an issue that probably about 60% of Americans have or will go through, and that issue is divorce. Today I have a special guest with me, someone who's overcome all the obstacles that a modern divorce causes a person, and she's come out the other side and she's found love. So I think you'll find her story very inspirational, at times very difficult. But the beauty of it is that she's come out of it and she's found love. So I'd like you to hear her story. This is Jenny. Hi Jenny, how are you?
I'm doing great.
That's good. Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us about how you and your ex-husband, how you met.
We met as high school sweethearts. I was a friend of a friend, and actually was dating one of his friends at the time.
Okay, so you were dating his friend at the time.
Yes.
Okay.
And then after he had broken up, he became my shoulder to cry on, the guy who I went to cry about Dave to.
Okay.
But initially, we basically met on Dave's steps. He came over and wrapped up a need that had been bugging me because of cheerleading. So, and so basically we started dating after that. We went to prom. We actually went to 3 proms together.
Okay.
And
so that sounds a lot like love.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Started off as a friendship, but then definitely grew into something more than that.
Okay. So now, as this friendship and this high school love is blossoming, what happens next? How do you get to the path of getting married?
Well, he had gone away to school to Ferris for a year, and after he came home, he just didn't enjoy Ferris. He just had a hard time with it. I did a lot of trips out to Ferris, going to see him, visit him, skipping school to go visit him my senior year.
All good girlfriends do.
Yeah. And then by the end of that, my senior year, he had decided to come home. And my freshman year in college, I actually became pregnant with my daughter.
Okay.
And I think that the sad thing about our marriage in the very beginning was that it wasn't even a proposal. It was almost more of a, we had decided.
Okay, so it's kind of a mutual decision. So he never did got on his knee and made the proposal. It was kind of like a. Do you feel like you got married because of the pregnancy?
I think we were heading towards marriage anyway, and I think that we were in love. But I think it just pushed things along quicker than maybe what, I was only 19 at the time, and he was 20, turning 21 by the time we had gotten married. So I wasn't even really old enough to drink, at my own wedding.
Right.
And, had a baby and a marriage right off the bat.
Okay. Did you see any warning signs early on in the relationship that there would be any types of trouble or that he would lack maturity? Were there any warning signs that you saw?
I think in the very beginning, when I was still pregnant, I know that he had the ability to at least think about straying, because we had an incident where he had a friend at work who had called him and wanted him to go out after work, basically, with her back to her house. And so he called me at home and he told me not to bother staying up, that he had some extra cleanup work to do at work, and that he would eventually make his way home, but don't stay up. And I was probably 8 or 9 months pregnant at the time. And then probably maybe 20 minutes, half an hour later, he showed up, and he was very apologetic when I asked him, what happened? Why are you here? Why did you wrap up quick? So much for overtime type of thing. And he told me that, this girl, I called her Horny Holly at the time, had asked him to come over.
All right.
Had asked him to come over after work, and but that he had decided at the last minute to come home to me.
And how did that had to make you feel good? Did that make you feel good?
No, not at the time. I was pretty furious at the time.
But it would seem to me that in a situation like that, if the man comes home to you and then tells you what happened and tells you the situation, that would kind of be a feather in your cap, or something that would make you feel good, or really make you trust him more.
I think I was just so hurt that he had even considered doing it. That it was even something that he not only considered but acted on, lied to me, and then just out of guilt came home.
Okay.
But
How did you express that anger?
I remember us talking about it and me being very hurt, but basically, we just kind of moved forward. I think our wedding was planned for 2 months from then, and we just moved forward.
Okay. So you get married. What happens next?
Well, we had decided early in the marriage, probably within the first, it was probably the first 4 years, that he really wanted to go to school.
Okay.
And that he was working as a sous chef and had the opportunity to go to the Culinary Institute of America. And I would stay at home with our daughter, and that he would go away for about 2 years until he got his degree. We just felt that it was something we had to do as a couple for us to succeed, because you just don't make very much money just as a cook.
So that was a decision that you came to as a couple.
Correct.
Were you concerned about being a brand new mom, brand new baby, with a brand new husband, gone for a couple of years essentially?
There were some concerns that I had. There was a couple people that I felt, I had a friend that warned me right before he left that she felt as though he wasn't being true to me.
Is that how she put it?
No, not at all. I think her exact words were something to the fact that, he had been given a silver spoon in his mouth, and that he was taking advantage of me.
Okay.
And that he just wasn't being faithful.
What happened between you and that friend?
Yeah, I never spoke to her again.
Okay. Because that's typical of what happens, and that's why a lot of friends stay out of people's personal relationships, because even when you're the person that thinks you're doing something good, in the end, the person you're trying to help tends to resent you, or the friendship erodes. So that's something that you see quite often. Okay, so what else happened?
Well, at the time, I remember it was just a few weeks right before he left. I had put on his suit coat to go outside, and he had just a navy suit coat, and I remember sticking my hand in his pocket of the suit coat and finding basically a love letter from a woman who he worked with, who told him that she, would miss him, that he would tell her that she was beautiful every day, and that was really, really hard, because I just felt like he didn't tell me I was beautiful every day. I mean, he was going to work and telling someone else that.
Wow.
And at the time, I did confront him about the love letter, and it was definitely a love letter. It wasn't just a friendship letter.
Right.
I'm gonna miss you letter. It was a love letter, and he told me that the girl had been going through some problems at home with her husband, and that she didn't feel attractive because she had gained some weight. She was trying to get pregnant and was on all kinds of pills to help with her fertility, and so he was just being a good friend.
Okay. Did you buy that at the time, or once again, did you just move past it without resolving it?
I think I moved past it without resolving it. And I think I wanted to believe that that's what was going on, that there wasn't anything more than that. But then about a year later, I had decided to surprise him and go out to school, making a drive from Michigan to New York for our anniversary, our 5th year wedding anniversary. And so my dad had taken me, and we're driving through upper state New York, and it's a horrible, horrible snowstorm.
Okay.
And we got about halfway through the trip, and we had to pull off to a rest area, stay overnight because the roads were so bad that we couldn't even get through.
Okay.
And start back up the next morning and make the rest of the drive out to New York. And when I got there to his to the school itself, he was in a dorm. First year students had to stay in a dorm. And when I walked in, he had a picture of the same girl on his wall next to his bed, clad in a bikini, laying on a beach.
How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel? What did your father do?
I was really furious after making that trip out and seeing her picture as if he would roll over and kiss her at night.
Wow.
Or maybe talk to her on the phone. You know, all these images kind of go through your head. And my picture and my daughter's picture are at the foot of his bed, which was so symbolic to me.
In retrospect?
In retrospect, that I was under his feet, and this woman in a bikini was, was where his attention was.
Okay.
And
what did your father do?
my dad didn't say anything. He backed out of the room. He probably took 2 or 3 steps back, and we never spoke of it.
Okay.
He completely let it go. He didn't confront me on it. He never confronted Chris.
Wow.
It was just something that we just didn't speak about.
Okay.
But I did rip up the picture. I ripped that thing off the wall, and I ripped it up and I burned it in the sink in front of him.
And what was his explanation for the picture?
He said he had stolen it from her. That on one of his trips home, that he had visited the club where he worked at with her, and that she was showing off her photos from her vacation, and on the sly had taken one from her to bring it back to school.
In my mind, that makes it even worse than if he were given the picture, that he stole the picture of another woman. That, in my mind, that makes it worse. That didn't make it worse in your mind, or at that point you didn't care. He just had the picture, and that was the problem.
I think in my mind, he probably would have known that the idea that he had been conversing with the same woman that I had found the letter from, possibly, getting it in form of a letter.
Right.
Or, maybe even a personal visit to the school.
Mm-hmm.
By him saying, well, I was just at work and I took it, seemed to downplay
Right, the significance of the picture and how he got it.
He had gotten it. How did you get it?
Okay.
Well, I was standing there with 2 or 3 people, and, these pictures were passed, and I just took one. Not that I had an intimate conversation with this woman, outside of work, and she gave it to me.
Okay.
I'll never know how he got that picture. But just the fact that he had it, it broke my heart. I was there for our 5th wedding anniversary. I'd driven hundreds of miles to see a person who was most likely talking to someone else.
Wow.